George Lucas has just done a big no-no. He just made a huge oopsie. He made a film with mostly white people in it during the 70s.
That's racist.
So there's this controversy going around because George Lucas, he finally spoke his mind during the Cannes Film Festival, in which he gave his opinions on his critics, the Star Wars sequel trilogy, and Disney in general. It's a lot of interesting stuff. So what's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video here on the channel. And let's talk about the George Lucas controversy. So I know a lot of people on the internet have certain opinions about Star Wars fans, George Lucas, and Star Wars in general. They say that the fan base is just straight white men and they're terrible people. So, you know, if you're watching this video, you're probably a terrible person. But honestly, a lot of the criticisms people have about George Lucas and Star Wars, it really doesn't make sense. As George Lucas says, they would say it's all white men. Most of the people are aliens. The idea is you're supposed to accept people for what they are, whether they're big or furry or whatever. The idea is that all people are equal. Well, except for droids, that is. But yeah, this doesn't make sense. First of all, yes, all the main characters in Star Wars are mostly white. Okay, I guess that is a valid criticism. Most of the main characters are white in this movie that was made in the 70s by a white man targeting a white audience. It kind of makes sense that the main characters would be, you know, white. So I don't get why some people say that that's such a bad thing, because he's just targeting his audience. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having an audience of straight white men. And this is coming from a black man, a green man. And I don't have a problem with Star Wars being mostly white. I don't have a problem with the protagonists of Star Wars being white, because it makes sense that they are. I mean, we live in America, and this is a big budget movie. Most movies have white protagonists. Let's be honest. And you know what? There's one huge smoking gun. There's one piece of undeniable, irrefutable evidence that George Lucas is not racist. Are you ready for it? Here it is. This is George Lucas's wife.
Damn,
and yes,
son, where'd
she's
you
black.
find this?
So that should tell you everything you need to know. I know there was some controversy about certain characters in the prequel trilogy and how they're supposed to be racist caricatures. I mean, I guess you could say that, but I don't think I would call somebody racist over it. Yes, these characters are played up for humor. And yes, it's very funny. It's hilarious. This is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them.
Fuck!
But yeah, this is pretty edgy, but I don't think it was considered racist. I feel like when you use this word racist so often, it really diminishes the impact of the word. Because when you call somebody who just makes stuff like this racist, really what you're doing is making the word completely meaningless. I don't think George Lucas hates black people. If George Lucas hated black people, or hated Asian people, or whatever, we wouldn't get amazing characters like Lando Calrissian, Mace Windu. The entire Force and Jedi is based off of Eastern mythology. Jedi are basically samurai, which is Japanese, so he definitely doesn't hate Asian people. Obviously, he respects their culture. So no, obviously George Lucas is not, oh, you gotta separate your whites from your coloreds. No, that's not him. That's a huge mischaracterization. Now, on to the next point. Is George Lucas sexist?
What are you, stupid?
Just look at Leia. She's the head of the entire rebellion, and she's a female character. Now, let's compare that to what some other stories were doing in the 70s and 80s. Most female characters were one of two things: a basic damsel in distress and or eye candy for the protagonist. They're just a love interest with no actual character. Leia has character, and that's what sets her apart from other female protagonists of her time. So no, George Lucas is not sexist. Not even close. Even if Leia was your basic damsel in distress or love interest, that still wouldn't make George Lucas sexist though. Because you gotta think, most directors of that time, filmmaking period, you wouldn't call almost every filmmaker since the beginning of time racist or sexist. That just doesn't make sense. Because obviously they didn't hate women. Because most of these directors, they don't actually hate women or are racist. I mean, he's not Mel Gibson. Okay, George Lucas is not Mel Gibson. As George says, who do you think the heroes are in these stories? What do you think Leia was? Leia was the head of the rebellion. Now, on to the next point. I was the one who really knew what Star Wars was. I mean, what can you say to that? George Lucas is the creator of Star Wars. He knows what's best. And he's right. The sequel trilogy doesn't really have that spark, that real feeling that Star Wars is supposed to have. Yes, the first two movies, The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, they were good, well-made movies. They were really good, but they were missing something. They were missing the soul.
I have no soul.
As I explained in my sequel trilogy reviews, they're missing an essence and cohesion. And that's kind of what happens when a big studio that's hungry for money gets its hands on a successful franchise. The big suits, they call the shots and they tell you how it's gonna be. That's what Disney does. And hey, I mean, at least we got some good stuff out of it. I'm not gonna say that everything that Disney has made is bad, because it's not. Like, I really love The Mandalorian. All of the stuff, aside from the sequel trilogy, most of the stuff that Disney has put out Star Wars related is good. It's actually good stuff. Mandalorian, Ahsoka, The Bad Batch, Rebels. I don't know if Rebels is part of the Disney bullshit, but Rebels is really good. Rebels is one of my favorites. Boba Fett and Kenobi, kind of mid. But the number one thing that proves that Disney is not complete trash is Andor. Andor is a really good miniseries. Amazing, spectacular. Even though it doesn't have the original Star Wars essence, it doesn't have the original Star Wars spice sprinkled on top, it's still really good. It's still really good. So I'm not going to say that everything Disney makes is terrible. But George Lucas is definitely right. They don't really know Star Wars. And I think the only way it can be fixed is if George Lucas comes back for more films. That would get me hard. That would be amazing. These detractors of George Lucas, what they really are clowns. They're all clowns, all of them, every single one.
Every single one of them.
And I'm glad George Lucas is finally speaking his mind about what he thinks of Disney and the sequel trilogy, and everything Star Wars related as a whole. I think this is a very healthy moment for the community and the fandom. And I'm glad to be here talking about it. Really. I'm sure he loves his fans as much as I love the Star Wars fans. Because we're a great community. We are. Now let's just hope that this dialogue is a new beginning for Disney Star Wars. Let's hope something good, something constructive comes from this. It may not be immediate, it may be down the line in a few years, but I hope something good comes of this. I hope we hear more from George Lucas. I hope he blesses us with more of his wisdom on Star Wars. I'm all here for it, 100%. George Lucas is a great filmmaker. He created something that has touched the lives of a lot of people everywhere. And to debase all that he has done and call it racist or sexist, I mean, that's asinine, really. Why would somebody say that? It's one of those things that you say when you really have nothing else in your life to worry about. You really haven't touched the grass or went outside in 10,000 years. Because if you did, you would know that what you're saying is complete hogwash. It's complete doo-doo butter. It's trash. Easily disproven. And I'll leave it at that. So that's pretty much the video. Is George Lucas racist?
What was the worst part about, like, the whole ordeal, like, working on your show?
Probably working with all those filthy
Let me know what you think in the comments below. I do not think George Lucas is racist. I think a lot of people have a grave misconception of what the Star Wars fandom is and who the creator of Star Wars is. So yeah, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and most importantly, share this video, please. And take care of yourself. Drink some water. Have a good one. Alright? Please. And thank you. Bye.